Hi, everyone. Kelly Hilton here.
And we have
one guys, Sarah Landis.
And it is already the week 3 hangout. I'm really excited. It goes fast.
It goes by really fast.
You know what, though? This is only halfway.
Right.
We still have 2 full weeks together. Even though next week is our last hangout, then we have the full week afterward to still work together. And if you're anything like my group, I'm going to brag about my group. My group's getting chatty on the doc. And not only chatty on the doc, but chatty within each other's lessons and collaborating and connecting and sharing ideas. So it's been really fun to watch you there. And we'll see you there in the docs even after these hangouts are over. All right, I want to get started right away today. There's a lot to cover. It's my day to do this, and I tend to talk too much. So here we go. The slides are connected in the Scope and Sequence doc. And let me get that to you. Let me just double check there. So if you are on our Scope and Sequence doc, it is here, week 3. There's our slides, and you can find those there. Also, don't forget to be posting your work from your group. Here's, oops, it says that I've signed out. Yeah, I'm not signed. I'm in there, guys. So look at all this chatting that's going on. It's really nice to see. So I love it. You guys keep it up. Way to go, my group. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I know the other groups are just, they've been bragging about you. So it's my turn.
Awesome.
Finally, a 3rd week, I get to brag. No, but I had a lot of fun connecting and commenting in there with y'all today. I know I saw you in there too. It's fun to watch you on there. So
I was just going to say too, I go to chat on someone's or drop a comment and there's already a couple people that beat me to it. So I love seeing that too. So way to go, group 3. Woohoo.
Group 2, you rock also. Don't forget too, if you want to have a group name, it's fun to have a little discussion about that. We haven't done that yet, I know, in our group. I don't know if you guys have.
We haven't.
There's been some clever little group names that have been developed before.
Well, let's talk about this week. This week we are going to debrief chapter 3 of the HyperDoc handbook. I get the meaty section. I love this section. We're going to talk about pedagogy and practice, and we're going to evaluate our lessons with Boost EDU. Ready to go? So first, let's get to this HyperDoc quotables. You guys, these were amazing. Your quotables look so good. I loved just seeing you be clever. Now we have this link here. You can click to it right here from the slides or on the Scope and Sequence doc, or I'm sorry, on our collab docs, you know, our group docs. There was a spot too where you can post your quotable on this Padlet. And, you know, we try these different things, different ways for you to turn your work in. And I love this method because that way I don't have to, oh, look, squirrel. I just saw my niece's name and I'm like, no, I'm reading yours, Destiny. That was so neat. She will love to see that done like that. Anyway, sorry. And I was looking at Heather's was quoted, you know, a couple different people. It's just such a neat way. Look at this one. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's such a neat way to
I love that one.
be able to see each other's work really quickly. This is Heather Marshall's quote, and she wears glasses. I'm going to send that to her.
That just goes perfectly with it.
Yeah, it's very her. But it's really also nice to see people. I love this. Look, you can do it any way you want. There's a drawing that you can upload an image of your drawing. And I think that is so great. That's the best part about doing these kinds of activities is that, look at a couple of drawings. So nice job, Amy and Maynard.
Maynard used a map that I had never heard of before. It's called Procreate. Oops. She wrote about that. And I thought that was really good looking.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I think that's one of the ones that Misty Klosner talks about in hers that we linked up when we were talking about sketchnoting last week. So way to try some new things, you guys.
Oh, I love that.
I love this one.
That's amazing.
I love here, Elizabeth. HyperDoc's work, because each begins with strong lesson design, curates quality instructional content, and packages learning in a way that engages students. So it's really nice to use these kinds of things to get your students to pull out quotes, meaningful quotes from the books that they're reading, just like we talked about last week, or even special words that they're coming across in their reading, and getting them to really practice sharing those definitions and then being able to post it in a way where everyone can see. And then you can all comment. Look at Tara. I hope I'm saying your name right, Tara or Tara. I think it's Tara. I'm going to go with Tara. I think you said that before. But I love that you're all commenting back on each other's. That is what makes this class very special, is that when you're getting in there and commenting to each other on here. Thank you very much, Clara, for doing that. And this discussion that happens, it goes so much further than just the three of us talking with y'all. So that is great. If yours is not done, don't worry, not to panic. We are easy teachers. We're good. Just get it up there and share when you're ready to. You know what else I'd really love to? If you could tweet them out. Because, I mean, I would tweet them out for you, but it's really nice when it comes from you. And use the hashtag HyperDocs. And you can talk about the online class if you like, or just, you know, share it out. And then, or tag us, and then we'll retweet it. I started a list today. I'll have to talk to the girls about this. I'm putting you guys all slowly but surely in a list. So I'm going to follow all your tweets. All right, on to business. We're going to debrief chapter 3, and we're going to talk about building our own HyperDocs and how to use templates. Actually, this part, I get to do the week where I really teach you how to use the book. Now, I don't know if you wanted me to teach you how to use the book, but I'm going to today. I don't know. We had a lot of deliberate purpose behind it, the design. So we wanted to share that with you. And then you could share that with others too if you are showing them what you got and what you did this summer. Now, at the heart of this, though, I cannot begin with any tech or anything about the book or anything until I start talking about our major shift in learning. And this is what started all of this, is we looked at our cycle of learning. And anytime I talk with teachers about HyperDocs, I always start with cycles of learning as well. See, when I used to teach in the classroom in the very beginning, in the very early years, I would start with explaining a lesson. And that always came in the form of a lecture. All right, guys, sit down, open your books. Today we're going to discuss blah, blah, blah. Let me explain it to you. All right, now I explained it to you. Now here's some problems. I want you to work them out. Oh, if you don't finish, it's your homework. Now that could be in the form of, you know, math problems, or I want you to write a summary of what we talked about, you know, those kinds of things. That was the apply. And then they'd come back the next day and we would either grade together as a class and assess it, or we would, you know, maybe I would give them a project or a test, and that was the assessment. So I would explain, apply, assess. And it was really frustrating because it would be like the next day they'd come back and it was Groundhog Day. It was as if I never got it to stick. The learning was just not sticking. It was in one ear, out the other. It was not memorable. And it was really frustrating. And I thought, oh, those kids, it's got to be the kids. No one's listening to me. And then I started to really examine, what if I changed the cycle of learning, the way I was delivering content? And instead of explaining first, I switched it to exploring first. Now, again, this all came from Cycles of Learning, from my friend Ramsey Musallam, who I've linked down here on these slides. He did his dissertation on it, and I spent a lot of hours talking to him about this idea where you get students to explore the content without telling them what the lesson is. So that's very hard for me as a controlling teacher to let go of. And it made all the difference in the world. I'll kind of get into a little bit more about that. Then after they explored it, we would reflect, and I could see where they were with their learning, do a little formative assessment before I hit the explain portion of a lesson. And that was really important because I didn't want to over-explain. I didn't want to, you know, when you're explaining something, it looks like everyone's got it and you're just not sure. That was just always happening. If I let them explore first, I got a hint on sort of what their level of understanding was. And then I could either rebuild schema, zoom them ahead, or I could revise their understanding. And then came the apply. And the apply for us, and we feel very strongly about this, is not practice. Now, what I mean by that, it's apply is not like answer these 5 questions, summarize your thinking, or do these 10 math problems. That's rehearsal and practice. And we are strong believers in rehearsal and practice. But we think apply is different. We think of it as more of that application of knowledge. Okay, so I just learned this, now what? How does this apply to the real world? How can I give real meaning to the application of this knowledge? So let's look at some of these ideas as we go further. You guys, have you ever been to a place called Which Witch? Again, my brain, I think in metaphors constantly. And when we were talking about building a HyperDoc where you are creating the lesson, I immediately thought of my favorite sandwich shop, which is called Which. And when you walk in, they give you this paper bag and you have to make all these choices, and you kind of like click the dots about what you choose. So you have to pick your cheese, pick your spread. Look at that. You even get a choice of mustards and then your meats and your veggies and all the kind of bread. I mean, there's so many choices to make, and every choice you make creates a very unique and individual sandwich. Well, I see HyperDocs that way. We are all about building our own lessons, and there's a lot of choices that go into that. Now, this is I imagine this being like the sandwich bag where you have all these choices to make. This is our template that the whole book is designed after. And each of these sections, you have choices to make, and you can build each section to make a unique lesson however you like. There are things to notice on top of what I've just circled here, like engaging and sharing, reflecting, and extending. But I want you to notice at the heart of these lessons is the explore, explain, apply. And those always go in that order in that series. This is the giant lesson plan where we add every piece into this. And we'll show you some options where you don't have to do all of that, as long as you've got that explore, explain, apply in your lesson design. Really important part to this. So let's talk about decisions you make. The engage piece. Sometimes, you're just going to want to say something more than get out your math books or get out your social studies books. And maybe you're going to start with a video that's going to really inspire your students, set the stage, get them thinking. Could be something as simple as an image, or just maybe you telling a story, some kind of hook. I remember when I first started doing lesson design as a student teacher, they called it the hook. Well, next after that would be the explore piece. You want to curate a collection of resources. Now, I differ maybe from other people, but I tend to want maybe one piece to explore or up to 3 at the most. I do love giving choice for this. And this is the part where if I'm going to teach a lesson on, the effects of colonialism, or I'm sorry, maybe the lead up to the Revolutionary War, I don't want to tell the kids what caused the Revolutionary War. I want them to read some things and build some background knowledge and explore for themselves some of the causes that led up to that. See if they can figure it out through explore learning. Now, some of you may remember we've talked a lot about explore learning with multimedia text sets. This is where that piece comes in one portion of a HyperDoc. You could use a text set here. I just tend to, when I designed, everyone has their own preference. I tend to use a lot less resources than a whole multimedia text set. Totally up to you. You'll see lots of varieties being done there. But after that exploration, and the kids do go through that, then you want to explain, all right, so this is what we know about the causes of the American Revolution. Here, let me revise some of that. I'm going to add a little bit to that. And you can explain this. Now, you could do this as a direct lesson. You might give them a video. You might give them an article that explains all the points. You get to design this part. You could do a combination of that, whether it's online or offline. Now, I know that's a little overwhelming, so many choices, but you really have to think of your students and their needs and what your needs are and what you're comfortable doing. If you don't find a great video, then maybe, you have one of your old PowerPoints you used to do. But you know what? Stick the link to the PowerPoint in this explain section, give it to the kids, and let them follow along as you go and explain it. The next section is the apply. After you've explained it, let them apply their knowledge. Create something for them to show you what they now know. All right, now you know the lead up to the revolution. I want you to create using one of these web tools. Let them have choice. You show me so I can teach next year's class. Hey, that's a really good idea actually for the next year's explore. They could explore everyone's content. All right, see what's happening now? I mean, the more I talk through a lesson, the more I get ideas for building this. Maybe you'll have to ask me more questions about that as I'm thinking about it now. When I'm building lessons too, when they are doing their apply portion, I really want to think about the share piece to it, because I think it's important that if you're asking kids to do something, then it should be, and especially if you're taking the time to make a HyperDoc, then make it worth their time. Don't just make it something to do just as a task to get done, to make sure they are doing their work or to make sure they're understanding. Have some purpose to it. Like, who needs to see this content? Like I just said, maybe the apply piece is going to be used for next year's 5th graders. And so you're going to be their introduction to American Revolution, you know, something like that. So they have authentic purpose. If my apply and my share can have that in it, I've really elevated this lesson. It doesn't always, but sometimes I can try for that. And then reflect. It's the piece that we leave out the most, and it's a really important part of this. And I think that it's something that I will never go back on now. I actually make more time for this than I do for my explaining, because this is where I help students synthesize the content and the information that we've been talking about. Is really important to kind of hit that point home, or, you know, it's like frosting on the cake. You've got to really help them understand, why do we do all of this? What's the purpose of what we're learning? Extension. Some of you I've seen already are adding good extensions in there. Do you ever have that kid who finishes early? I'm like, now what do I do? So put in extensions in there and say, hey, did you like this topic? Here's more links to explore. Some kids love that. They love going further. They're disappointed when your lesson's over and they don't, you know, at least, so at least I wish they felt that way. I want kids to feel that way. So I'm going to stick those in there as little treats that maybe, hopefully, somebody will explore. All right. So any questions so far? Are we all good?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna keep plowing through this section then. Let's talk about the book and how to get through the book with this. Actually, I'm gonna go get the book. Oh, I'm far.
She's running now, running through the family room.
Okay, so
she's got the book.
I should have had this.
There we go.
It's a crazy day.
It's
all right.
just there in your bookshelf.
It was
always,
in my bookshelf. And so I
want
wanted to show you a little bit about the book. And I know when you come to chapter 3, as I'm sure you've seen, it gets to the part where we explain the template. So there's the large template, and you'll notice each section is color coded. So for the engage section, it's green. And we talk about what engage means. And then we have these tables, and we have like 4 or 5 tables for each section. Now, what we're doing is we're just explaining the engage portion of the lesson. And then we move on to the explore, and that's in blue. And so it's all color coded, you know, such teachers, right? Color coding our lessons. So let me go back to screen sharing now. I just wanted to point that out in the book. Like I couldn't have just explained it, but so let's think about this in terms of the engage section and how to get the most out of this. So this is one of the pages in the book, and you'll see that it has lots of parts. We describe in this example how to use YouTube as an engage tool in your HyperDoc. So this is just if you want to use a video. This is we have a description there of how that would look. We talk about how to design, how to deliver, and how to collect. Now that I'm going to keep saying this just for the engage portion. So if you're creating one here, how do you collect their thinking in that engagement piece? And so then down below, we give you a screenshot of an actual lesson just zoomed in to the engaged portion. And I have all over the book, we have these little hints, these little text boxes that kind of go through that design piece as well, how to design that and how it looks and why we put things where we put it. Here's the actual lesson, because there's a QR code and a link to the actual lesson. And you can see it goes on. There's other pieces to this lesson, but I was just focusing in on this engage part with that video. Now back to the page, we also included in here things that we think are really important to consider when you're doing lesson design, such as the 4 C's, the ISTE standards, the DOK level, and the SAMR level. And we highlighted in green when we felt it touched upon those areas. So for example, using a video for your engage portion of your lesson hits on communication and critical thinking. ISTE standards, it hits almost all of them except for those 2, and I guess maybe even digital citizenship, if you're talking about being responsible on YouTube. DOK, it was DOK level 1. It was just a recall reflection I was doing with this. And then SAMR, it was just augmentation. So that's how that works. Oops, I went really fast through that. So notice that there is also the QR code and the link at the bottom. So that's kind of how each of the pages work. We also have included, because sometimes it's hard, like what do I put? Where do you get these ideas for each of these sections? Well, we have collected a ton of web tools on Pinterest. I love Pinterest because I feel like I'm shopping and I save a lot of money. Because I'm just like, it's like hunter and gatherer instinct, because I'm just gathering things and curating them onto these pages. And this is like my late night, I can't sleep. We've organized them by subject. So we have history, geography, we have ELA, science, and all of that. But we also did them in other ways too. So web tools for creating, web tools for video, web tools for presenting. So when you're kind of trying to think about, I need a new, fresh idea. This is linked up. I do have a link right here on the slide to our Pinterest page, and you are welcome to go and check them out. Now, we like Pinterest because every time I find something new, I update it, and so it's changing all the time. Hey, if you have a good one too, send it to me. I'll add it to our list. But as you continue through the book, and on our website, I have a link here, hyperdocs.co/templates. You'll see there's our basic template, and we have this set up in the book this way too. And on the right side is a completed lesson. And both of these are linked up in our website on the templates, so you can open either one of these. But I wanted to show you a before and after, because you start to see these lessons online. You're like, oh my gosh, I recognize that. I recognize that template. Sometimes you'll see even the colors will be the same. But look at the one on the right. It's the same thing. Engage, explore, explain, apply. All that happened was I took out the text there. I put a new header, a new title. I changed the colors. I took the icons off the left side and put them on the inside of the box just to make it look a little different that way. Now we have other templates as well on our website and in the book. This is our simplest template, and if you're really feeling a little overwhelmed and it feels like these are really big and a little bit complicated to make, I highly recommend you start with this template. It is very simple to use. It has lots of hints about what to put in each section. It's just a simple table, and it has explore, explain, apply, and then you just put the kids' tasks, what they're to do. Now on the right, I have an example of this. This was a 3rd grade lesson. They were doing animal reports. I was trying actually in this example to use as least amount of words as possible to see if the kids could figure out their tasks, and all these linked up to where they needed to go. Sure enough, these 3rd graders were able to do this. It was pretty amazing. So this is the before, this is the after, and I really didn't do too much to change that. Now, if you're a science teacher or creating a science lesson, this is the 5 E's lesson model. And so please share this with your science teachers, those working on the NGSS standards. They're very familiar with this. This is a really simple format for them to follow. And again, this just has all of the hints about what to put in each section. Now, I love this example too, because I love the images in the drop downs here instead of the words. It gives you a visual image. I'm such a visual learner. I love to see that part. Anyone out there, do you do workshop model, readers or writers workshop? This is a template that might help you. It uses the same language as the workshop model. So connection, the teach and learn, the engagement activity, the independent application, and the share. The one on the right is a filled in example of that. Another really amazing lesson. You all are welcome to these lessons, by the way, on the right, just by going to the website and get those templates. Let's see, here's our another one. This is our hero's journey. And this template goes through 5 phases: the call to adventure, entering the unknown, meeting the mentor, transformation, and mastery. And again, the one on the right is looking at a lesson. How do you package a lesson using that hero's journey? This one is on solar energy. I also want to point out, have you noticed our homework so far in class? Each week we've been trying to package on a different template to model that as well. All right, do we have questions? Am I going too fast?
No, I think they're just
guys doing
chatting
okay?
a little bit about
Okay.
the application of all of this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Then
Kara mentioned that her district at one point had everyone creating with the 5Es model. And although that's great because it becomes second nature and there's a solid structure in place and consistency across, obviously takes the fun out of designing sometimes. And so that's what's great is we tried to do just that. Like Lisa is saying, here's some templates, here's some structure, here's some built-in lesson design, but also know that you still want to make it your own and your students are your students and you are who you are. And so we really try to balance that. Like, here's a structure if you want it, here's some scaffolds, templates, whatever, but then also know that you're you and you have to put you into your teaching and all that good stuff. So I think that's real. You know, districts have mandates and expectations, and I always call them those have-tos. But how can you, as a designer, turn those into some of the want-tos, the things that you want to do, and the things that are important to you in your design? So thank you for that comment. I think that's real. You know, just the districts.
That adds on to the other part of the chat where they were talking about YouTube access. If you don't have access to that at your school, then also consider just using your curriculum videos as your Explore or your Explain in that way, because a lot of adopted curriculum does have some of the same resources, and you're just thinking about how to deliver that in a way that's going to be engaging to students. So
the other thing is, I was with a group of teachers this last week, and YouTube was blocked, and our conclusion was, let's go to our leaders at our district and show how we're using YouTube to persuade them to not be blocking good content, to really be trusting how we're using this for educational purposes. So create a lesson and convince them maybe.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're moving on. I still have so much. No, it's all good stuff. So let's get back to this. I have a question for all of you. Have you heard of a HyperDoc being called a web quest? Well, it goes around. People sometimes were like, this reminds me of a web quest. And as I just went through this pedagogy with you and through all the parts of it, I want to point out the old web quests where we would, because I used to use web quests in the classroom, where you have students who would go through a series of links and you would have just questions that they would answer. It was like scavenger hunt, right? And you would go through them. And I thought they were awesome. They were great, but they're definitely not HyperDocs. And this is a great graphic to kind of show you. With a web quest, your brain is a bucket and you fill it. With a HyperDoc, your brain is a muscle and you use it. And that is so important for you to remember as a designer, that you have more choice and you have more voice. With a web quest, you just follow the direction that they have given you. It's a lot different. So what I want to do is I want to show you, actually, no, not show you. It's a little game we're going to play about pedagogy and practice. Ready? It should be, I need some game music. I'm just kidding. Boy, I am wound up today. Always.
She's going to
find the music. So is this a web quest or is this a HyperDoc? No, I'm kidding. We're going to kind of go through. We're going to go through this.
Oh, never mind. It's going straight to your recording instead.
So let's look at this one now. This is one of my newest ones, and look at how long this is. Do you recognize this? Do you see the pedagogy? Which template did I use? See, when you see these online, it's really sometimes hard to tell, and you're like, this lesson's terrible. It's just a doc with links. But really, now that you've been in this course, I hope you look at this lesson and go, oh, that's the big template. That's the one that says engage first here. This is the engagement. This is the exploration. This is the explanation, the apply, the share, and the reflect. Oh, and I guess I left the extend off. But this is a complete lesson design. This is not a scavenger hunt. There is so much pedagogy built in here that you don't even know about. The good thing, see at the top here, I made this really long, oops, it just went forward. I made this really long screencast of how I taught this lesson because I stopped students all along the way. I did not just give this to them, have them run with it. And I think that could be a misunderstanding when you're using a HyperDoc. That pedagogy, that delivery is hidden. People don't see it. So that's why we're always trying to explain ourselves. This is not a doc with links. I mean, like literally it is a doc with links, but it is really so much more. It's got that lesson design. Now, these links here, you can open this and it can take you to this HyperDoc. And you're welcome to play around with it, look at it, go file, make a copy, and you can have this lesson and then alter it to fit your needs. Just change out the links that are unique to the students I was working with. Oh, and don't forget, I always forget this part. At the bottom of your lesson, I don't know if you saw it, way down there at the bottom, you need to remember to include your name, created by. Now, let's say you copied mine and you went file, make a copy, and then you altered it and revised it and edited it for your needs. You can say created by Lisa Highfield and remixed by and include your name. I think a real dream for us as instructors or as the creators of HyperDocs is to see multiple names all the way across the bottom. That just thrills me when I see that, because that is the true nature of that collaboration. So don't forget. Now, I've linked to my Twitter feed, so if people have questions about this lesson, but you can just put your name if you want, or link to the things as well. Oh, there's my arrow. Now, look at this. Pedagogy and practice. I actually want to open this one. This is one of the ones I did this spring, and look what I packaged on. A HyperDoc does not have to be packaged on just a Google Doc. Now, we name them HyperDocs because they are hyper, they're alive, like us, and always changing, and a doc is a document. So it's a live document, a live lesson. That's what HyperDoc means. But it doesn't mean it has to be on a doc. So this is my spoken word poetry jam, and it was such a fun lesson to do with kids. Oh, you guys, if you want just a fun lesson for all ages, I put lots and lots of notes down here in the speaker notes, or you can change out the poems for middle school, high school, for culturally relevant poetry, get some diversity in your poetry, or you can just have, make it really simple. This is for a 4th grade class I was doing this with, but for me it was just easier to build this one on slides. And I've been working with this class and nobody knew to touch. All these were links. And so every time I wanted link for a while, I was putting these little hands all over the place to say, touch here, guys. And so those are just little hints. I was playing with color. I have my Explore flag up top, and all the instructions that they needed to do so they could follow through and do it. And these, I took the links off, but you can add your own links for them to turn turn their videos in and see their classmates there. And so it was just a nice flow for me to work in slides. And then there was their reflection and then extensions. This actually is more for teachers, this extended part. There's so many things you could do with this one. Hey, do you like, oh, did I put my name on it? Yeah, there it is, HyperDoc. All you have to do, if you like this, go file, make a copy, and then edit to fit your needs. Maybe when you're presenting this one, you don't want to show the apply yet. You just want them to play around with the poetry and the music lab. So maybe you're not going to add those slides until later. And if you want to do that, then you can always do import slides. I love that. It's a neat little trick where you can import new slides into here. That's why this lesson is always alive. Maybe you just want to give a couple of slides first. Hey, that works if the kids don't have their own copy of this lesson. There was no need for them to have their own copy. Everything was linked right on here, and they could just follow along. There's no need. It linked away if I wanted them to share or reflect there. All right, so that is one packaged on slides that I want to share with you. Let's see. All right, guys, are you wondering about length of your HyperDocs? I wanted to share this one. This is actually a unit that I created, and it was called the five place biography project, 5 location biography project. And look, it is linked up here, so you can check for it. The apply comes way down in this lesson. On this one, this is a first lesson I did, and I have a purpose for each of these blocks. Each of these were different lessons. I wanted kids to get used to navigating on maps and to be really critically thinking as they were going through and looking at content, because I knew that would benefit me down here at the bottom when they complete the project. On this one, I wanted them to learn how to add content to a Google map. And so this is an actual activity that they would do. And so each one of these links to a new activity. And then here is the actual unit right here. And when we ended up doing these museum displays, this is a crazy project at the end. Kids made their biography projects. We had these museum rooms. They uploaded an image of the person they did the biography on and then put it into ThingLink, and here is their map so that kids could then read all about the most significant places in Martin Luther King's life. What a different way to package a biography report. And all of this, I mean, this took a lot of time as we went through here. I wanted it all in one place. So no one was like, wait, how do I do that? Where's that content? So it's just a whole different purpose to this. Each one of these are little HyperDoc. Well, this one's just an experience, actually. This one's a HyperDoc, and this was our lesson. What's missing on here, though, is the hidden pedagogy. Again, you don't know what I did in class beforehand. This whole researcher person you're curious about. Well, that was a lot of in-class, face-to-face, on paper, in your notebooks kind of instruction. We just packaged it on maps for that share portion. So it's important that you see the hidden pedagogy behind people's lessons. I can't emphasize that enough. I hear more so often that, oh, that's a terrible lesson. I've never seen a good HyperDoc. And I think, come on, you guys, look at the lesson. Really think about this. Think about ways that this could be taught in a powerful way, and really put that critical thinking in as a teacher. And hey, if you disagree with it, then you make a file, make a copy, and elevate it to what you want, or most importantly, what your students want. I mean, that's the most important part. So that's just another style where I packaged a whole unit. This unit took, gosh, I think like 3 weeks to complete. And we didn't do it every day, but we kept coming back to it. How about for the K2 crowd? Because it's really challenging with all that writing and all that text, and they can't read. This was a lesson I did with kindergartners, and it actually want to open this one. Here we go. I built this one on ThingLink, and so I wanted to practice their mouse skills, number one. So when they hovered, here's explore, explain. Oh, come on, load. I inserted a Google slide deck and apply, explore, explain, apply. So first was a brain pop video all about US symbols. That's what this lesson was, US symbols. This was a slideshow. I had the kids leave their computers, come to the carpet, and listen to me talk about US symbols. Now, before I could do that, I had to define what a symbol is, and then I come to find out, not having been a kindergarten teacher, I know those of you who teach kindergarten will laugh about this. The kids did not know the difference between a state and a country. And so we talked a little bit about that, the country versus state. Then we talked about different flags and the stripes. This is kind of where I wanted to get into, like how many red stripes, how many white stripes, and how many stars. I felt like that's what I wanted them to walk away with. So their task for the apply, paint a flag. And so this was a link to ABC Paint, which I absolutely love, for getting little ones to show their thinking, or they can learn how to draw. Plus it builds really, really great trackpad or mouse skills, or, you know, just that small motor coordination skills to be doing. I saw a lot of kids keeping this tab open when they went to ABC and going back and looking at how many stripes and looking at the side notes and thinking about that. It was pretty powerful to watch. This was a successful one. I have done others that were not. This lesson worked for me. You're welcome to use any part of this one as well. Just take that link at the top. That's the beauty of these. You can share them. I love that part. I think one of the key things for me, something I do as a HyperDoc creator, is I've talked through a couple of these that I've created. I ask myself this question constantly. What is it I can do now that I couldn't do before? And I say that I really mean that. I'm going to stop sharing right just for a second because I sincerely mean that when I say that I ask myself when I'm doing a lesson. Sometimes, when we want feedback, it may come in the form of, am I doing this right? Does it seem right? So my hint to you when you're creating your HyperDoc is to ask yourself that question. Are they doing something that they couldn't have done before? Have I elevated this to make it worthwhile to do with tech? Because if not, maybe I don't need tech for that. Or maybe I can change it up a little to make it more innovative and make it more worthwhile. I don't teach with HyperDocs all the time. I wouldn't do these all day, every day. Maybe try it out, go slow, try one a month. See if you like it. And if you're going to take the time to do just one, just try one, then take the time to create it so it's really meaningful and purposeful. Sarah, got any questions for me? No, you're all good. You're on mute.
No, just lots of inspiration happening. I love that people are like, oh, just talking about the file, make a copy, because you just went through all those great lessons and they're like, oh, I can do that in Spanish. Oh, I can, take this part. And so just that wonderful reminder of taking someone else's good ideas.
Yes.
And, revising it to
yours all the time. Sarah, you guys, is my design inspiration. Because I get kind of in a rut of creating. You see the ones with the dark gray backgrounds?
We all do. Yeah, that's natural.
I think, why reinvent the wheel? If you can be inspired by someone else's lesson, then start there. We're busy people, and if you're inspired, that's great. Share it back. I'd love to see where you go with it.
And I think we have favorite tools that we haven't thought to use in that way, or we have a design, we always call it our seasonal design choices. Like, we'll choose a font for the whole, year, or, like, I'm into Unsplash right now, but that'll probably get old really quickly, So it is really important to look at other people's work. And I think that's what 2018 is about. It's about being inspired by each other and borrowing and stealing and using each other's great ideas, but remembering that our students, our classroom makeup is unique. You might teach the same content in one part of the world, but there's differences and nuances to the people that we work with and the kids that we learn with every day. So I think being able to take those ideas and tweak them is so important to our work.
So true. I think it's really good too. Sometimes it's not even the content on the HyperDoc, but it might be, I know this is really shallow, but as a designer, I was like really inspired by the colors or by the look of it, because it's my eye is drawn to it. And I think that I want kids to be drawn to a lesson. And so sometimes I'll just take out all the content and leave the color scheme or the way it was packaged, and I'll use that as well. That's another little trick I've been using. So I'm going to keep going. I want to share with you a little walk through, I think it's the very next slide, a little more tips on this. When you're evaluating your HyperDocs, you really, aside from saying that comment, what is it I could do now that I couldn't do before, you want to look at the 4 C's. Are you having kids communicate somehow? Are they sharing their thoughts, their ideas together somewhere, somehow throughout the lesson? Maybe that's as a whole class. Maybe it's on something digital like a Padlet, but somehow you want to get them sharing their thinking. Are you getting them to collaborate? Are they working together to reach a goal? Are they doing something with each other? Or is this a solo lesson? Now, this one can go back and forth. You can design that piece to how you need that to be designed. It's totally up to you. And then the critical thinking. So important to be looking back at your lesson. Am I getting them to look at things in a new way? Am I elevating their thinking? Am I pushing them? Or is this just a really quick, easy task? You want to avoid the digital worksheet where you're just giving them like a to-do list that they kind of just whip through. Save those for, their workbooks and things like that. I don't mind that all the time because it's hard, their brains are tired from critically thinking all the time. But I'm just saying, when you make a HyperDoc, you take all that time to design it, then elevate it to be a really powerful lesson. And the last one is creativity. Getting them creating, making something. That's the apply piece. I want to take you through my first HyperDoc. This was a long time ago. I created this one. I'm actually going to open this lesson. And I kind of want to talk you through my thinking when I made this and how it went. Because I did this and I did it with another teacher, partly in my class and partly with another class with 5th graders. And it all started because I saw this really great video. Now you can tell it's my first one. There's no color. There's nothing fancy on here. But I did have some raw links on here. There's my YouTube video. And it was all because of this video. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Lion, about the boy who got stuck on the train. This is the video. And so this was out, this video was out way before that movie was. So I was really excited when the movie came out. And my first HyperDoc was designed around that. So it was all about thinking back to how special places can hold memories that we hadn't thought of in a long time. Maybe it's your grandma's house or your old neighborhoods. And you could go there and explore them. And you know, I just let the kids that day go on and explore this map after watching the video and being inspired. And this was the very early engage piece for my students. And then it comes down to the part 1, but I have to say, I didn't have that labeled as part 1 back then. I didn't realize there was going to be more parts to this. We had a lot of errors. But notice here, I put my workflow right on the doc. There was no Google Classroom then. And I wanted them to file make a copy. And that was, I just put the instructions right on there. And the kids all picked a location, and I made this handy dandy graphic organizer for them to tell the story of their place. And I watched the kids do this, and they were so into it. And I was so excited. And then it kind of hit me. I'm like, to what degree of tech integration is this? Now, you may have heard the SAMR model, and I was realizing that this was definitely substitution because, you know, in substitution, I have to think to myself, and I ask my question again, am I doing I'm doing anything that I couldn't have done before? Well, no. I could have done this table on a worksheet, and they could have handed it in, because at this point, no one's looking at each other's writing. No one is, you know, collaborating or sharing on here. It's just kids writing on a table. So it's definitely substitution. Now I'm going to also say here that I'm going to show you a really cool graphic for SAMR model in a minute. And it's a swimming pool, and you go back and forth. At this point, I'm okay with some substitution as long as there's part 2. Because part 2 is where the lesson started to elevate. And this is when I realized, oh, I got to go further than that. Because what I was going to do was I was going to have them come up to my projector and my computer and type in their happy place one at a time and share that. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. This is like 30 days of happy places. And knowing me as a teacher, I'd be like tired of it after like 10 days. And that would not be so good. So I learned about Google Maps, Google My Maps, and the kids put their special places in the world right there on a class map. Look at this. I made all the directions in one place, and everyone at one time collaboratively could put their special places here on this collaborative map. It was incredible. The kids were like, whoa, they couldn't believe that they could do this kind of a thing. Not only that, they were going on each other's and looking at each other's special places. And I think that was really great. You know, hearing about Chloe's cousin's wedding, and some of them were adding images to the places. I mean, it was, oh, there's my 5th grade house. I was showing them, and it was just really neat. We were practicing on this. This is like that unit I showed you with the 5-place project. We were practicing how you add content to a Google map. Well, that led us to, you know, this is low cognitive load. It led us to the real point of this lesson, part 3. This was where I kept asking myself, is this enabling us to do something we couldn't do before? Yes, we're all on one map at one time. Nobody's having to raise their hand one at a time and share their happy place. They were actually able to all look at it at once. And I thought this could work for European exploration. Not necessarily my favorite lesson or unit to teach. So I attached my next lesson. So this is, I guess, I got to call this my second HyperDoc. Again, there's my awesome workflow. File, make a copy. I have raw links. I call them raw links because now I usually hide a link behind a word, sort of like I did down here where it says here. At this point, I was like, just stick the link on there. But the instructions were there. I put another graphic organizer. But really, I needed to get them doing some more critical thinking. What I wanted them to do was get on a Google map and think about the route that their explorers took. And I wanted them to answer these questions. What did you discover? What do you now wonder? What can you infer about the voyages? Because before, all we were doing was this low level. Explorer name, dates of exploration, sailed from, sailed to. I mean, I'm sure any of you could relate to this kind of a level. This to me was that lower DOK level. When I got them to really think and look at a map about, what do you wonder about these crazy people going across the ocean? It became a very powerful lesson. After they did the research about their explorer, I asked them to put that information on a class map, just like the Happy Place. And the teacher and I stood back and look what happened. The kids created the content on this map. So anytime you click anywhere on here, they have the Straits of Magellan. There's Magellan. Here's actually what it looks like, a video going through there. It has some descriptions of that journey. Now, I was a little upset when they were putting skull and crossbones on my map until they're like, Mrs. Highfell, you need to look at what I put. Henry Hudson died in a small boat along with his son and 7 crew members due to mutiny. And I just I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm sorry. And so it really reminded me, and I want to emphasize this point. Just because I had them apply their knowledge and create their map here, just because I gave them that task does not mean that the learning is over. To be honest, this is where the learning began. It's just my students created the content. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to learn about explorers. Now we're going to explore what everyone put on here, and you're going to look at the content. Oh, look at DeSoto was buried there. How cool. And to see the Mississippi River. That is really neat. Do you see how you can get lost on this? Now, you have to teach kids how to explore and how to be curious. And maybe one day I'm going to do a direct lesson from this, and I'm going to talk about, guys, why, what in Magellan's mind, what in his right mind would make him take a shortcut right here? He was so close to the Cape. And how did he know this? And how could he trust that? So those are the powerful lessons that can happen once you have built the content. You can tell powerful stories just by using this map. Can you tell? I guess it's kind of a map day for us, huh? This is the kind of aha I had, though, was when you get kids to apply, then what are you doing with that apply? How are kids learning from each other's apply? How are they sharing their information? And, some of their, I'm not clicking on all of them because some of them are not very good. And that happens. And I'm okay with that. Oh, look, someone's resort. It's like a resort. Yeah, I don't think they found that quite. Oh, but that helps. It's kind of nice to see that too. That's hilarious. Oh, and they had to get that video in there, of course. So that was my first HyperDoc. Again, if you are inspired to create something like that, know that it doesn't have to be fancy. It's all about watching your kids and how they learn on it and how that goes for them. I think that is an important part to this. Now, I talked, before I went in there, I talked about the SAMR model and the swimming pool, and to what level are we integrating our technology? And I talked about a little bit about substitution. And I hope that you are feeling like not every HyperDoc has to be redefinition or modification, really that transformation of learning, doing something different. I love the swimmer going back and forth. So maybe part of the lesson is going to lead up or build skills that they'll use later in the year or even later in that very lesson. I think this model is really helpful. You'll see on each of these slides, every time you see a little YouTube button, oops, it's going to open it. There you go.
Technology has the power to.
This is, I have included great videos to share what the SAMR model is, and you can share those with colleagues you like as well. I also look in mine to see what kind of ISTE standards am I including. And this is a great video, again, that explains the ISTE standards. But am I empowering my learners? Am I including digital citizenship in my lesson? Am I being an innovative designer? Am I getting kids to be creative communicators or global collaborators or knowledge constructors? Those really help me to really elevate the kind of lesson I'm doing in a lot of ways, actually. It's kind of like I'll build a lesson and then I'll look at some of the ISTE standards, I'll look at SAMR, and I'll go back and revise my lesson. I've also been talking about DOK levels, and I apologize if you don't use that term, but DOK is Webb's depth of knowledge, and this helps a little bit on some understanding, but there's a good video down here as well about what that is. Really, this is the critical thinking piece of lessons, and how can I elevate that lesson so that we go back and forth from level 1 all the way up to level 4. I don't want the kids at level 4 the whole time. I have all kinds of learners in my room. I want to make sure that they have a good understanding and yet are really challenged, getting that zone of proximal development reached just correctly. Now, I have a wonderful tool to share with you. Now, if you don't know Megan Kelly online, here is her Twitter. I suggest you follow her. Megan Kelly is a great creator. She lives down here in California. Down. That's because she's in Southern California. It's like a whole other world away from Northern California. She created this site called Boost EDU, and it is an incredible tool that you can use to evaluate your HyperDocs. And so she walks you through the process, and there's self-assessment. Now, when you go through this, you can decide, I want to try out and self-evaluate my HyperDoc. You can evaluate it for the SAMR levels. You can evaluate it as an in-depth SAMR one. Now, she doesn't have the 4 Cs, the ISTE standards, or the TPAC yet, but they're coming soon. She also just had a baby, so we'll give her a big break. These are awesome, though, these in-depth. And all it is she walks you through it, but it is a self-assessment form that you can do and answer. Now, she's not going to give you any magical answer. I'm going to say that right up front. But what she does do is she makes you slow down and think about your lesson. There's all these different ways that you can analyze it. It's pretty cool. So you can look at the lesson right here. I guess, oh, is it going to make me put things in? No, it doesn't. Okay, she puts the title of the lesson, my objectives, my tasks, and then she wants me to think about, oh, I do have to put in at one point, I have to evaluate for, do I want to look at this for assessment? Do I want to look at this for how much reading is happening in this lesson? She gets really detailed on here. And then at the end, you are sent into your email inbox. You get this little evaluation, a chart of all your answers. For you, it's actually on a Google Doc that you can then use as sort of like a planner, as a template, so that you can add in more thinking and elevate your lesson. When I did this, and I really did it seriously on a lesson, I was wondering if I had done a good job with assessment on my HyperDoc. Like, I wanted to analyze that part to it. And it wasn't that she gave me all these answers. She did give me some hints and tips for web tools that I could try out. But it really just made me slow down and think more critically about the choices I made on my HyperDoc. And I think that that's really important when you're critiquing and analyzing your lessons, to be thinking about, why did I put that there? Thinking about your special needs students, thinking about your language learners, and really designing a lesson that responds to their needs, I think is the hope that you would put into a lesson. Now, this can happen after you teach the lesson as well. Go back and reflect on that lesson right away. At least put notes on it so that the next time you go to use it, you're ready to revise and edit that. I had to slip this slide in there, and I know, Sarah, you're giving me a smirk for this one. But I love this saying, and thank you, Catlin, for this insight. And again, this is the metaphor that I always go back to when I'm creating lessons, that we are the architect of learning experiences. There's no one right way. It's our design. It's personal. I think the idea being is that you just put in that thought and that time and creating something that is really unique and that you never could have done before when you're using technology. And that's the power of the HyperDoc. The more you put into those plans and those designs and creating that house and then revising and changing that house, you know, sometimes your kitchen needs a makeover, and that's okay. I think that's what I think about as you go into creating your HyperDocs this week. I hope that this has been helpful to you and the thoughts that you put into your lessons, and some inspiration. So we are wrapping it up. I think we should always call that our class does not go 1 hour. It goes 1 hour and about 8 minutes every time. I have a few things to share with you, though, on the wrap up. Actually, Sarah, before I do that, any questions?
No, nothing major. Just, again, more inspiration. We lost audio for a minute there, but everybody seemed to get back on, so it wasn't terrible.
Okay. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. I was blabbing on for a while.
You were going, but then as you were speaking, everyone's like, no, I'm back. It's good. So okay. Thank you. Sorry. We were back channeling.
Nice. Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm going to keep going. And let me share them with you guys because I want to be clear on what's coming up this week. So we are asking, this is an ask we have, if you feel so inclined, come to find out, because being teachers, we did not know what went into publishing a book, and all of putting a book out there. Come to find out, it's about Amazon reviews. And so if you're inclined to write a review, we would love that. We'd really appreciate that. And so this is a link to our book on Amazon, and giving teachers some insight about, because sometimes they'll think of HyperDocs. What's a HyperDoc? And it's, I love hearing other people's explanations. So we would love if you went into that. Not required, it's up to you. If you want to share your thinking about this class on Twitter or about HyperDocs, we would love for you to post your quotables there or any kind of content. Tag Kelly and Sarah and I in those, and we'll retweet them. That would be awesome. We have a Facebook group. Have you guys seen our Facebook group? It is unbelievable. There's 12,000 people in the group right now, and I'm telling you, they're the nicest people on social media. And if any of you are in there already, then thank you. You know what I'm talking about. They're very chatty. I can't keep up with the chat. I'm more of a Twitter girl. So if you want to talk to me, go there. But do join up, and you'll find your people there who are very willing to share and connect and collaborate. There's a lot of former students in there as well. We have a Google Plus group that is not quite as active, but it is a really growing group as well. And if that's your platform you like to do, then go ahead and join that Google Plus group. We did put in this week for another HyperDoc to be done. This HyperDoc is meant to help you along the way with that planning. It's kind of a review of everything I talked about today. You can explore, gives you HyperDocs by subject to explore that might inspire you. And then it talks about, picking a template if you like, and really planning through how you're going to create your HyperDoc. We want you to be collaborating in your group. Let me show you that as well. So in our groups, oh my goodness, it's making me stop. There we go. Under week 3, you're going to see where we have HyperDoc draft. And we're hoping that you will link yours up there as soon as you can, because if you will link it up, it gives people time to comment and give you feedback. And I think that is invaluable. It's a really great way to be able to be building. So the sooner you link yours up, we will not judge it at all. Just go ahead and link up and ask for feedback and comments. You can leave it to view only and we can comment on that still, or you can make it can comment and we'll be able to add our comments on there, and that's really helpful. Actually, yeah, I think you do have to do can comment on there. And so when you highlight someone's text, it's going to make me sign in. Of course, this is being a stinker today. So that when you, and I know I've seen all of you doing this, but when you highlight something, you can go ahead and add your comments right on the doc. Now, in our groups, I'm noticing that people are adding on our collaboration doc, but also if you were to go into some of our links, people are having lots of conversations within those links as well. I love seeing this. By the end, I'm hoping that this whole side is filled up to the point where you can't follow along anymore. They're very helpful. Hey, but after the class is over, if you want to clean up your doc, it's okay to delete them. You'll be able to see that chat up here in the chat button. Even if they are closed off at the side, that's kind of helpful as well. All right, so finish that HyperDoc. Link it up to the collab doc when you're done. We have something else, and you'll just follow through there, and you'll be able to find all the details. Your job is to read chapter 4. That is what next week is all about. It's a really special week for us next week. Oh, I already showed you this. Post your HyperDoc in progress, week 3 in the column. But next week is really, it's my favorite week because we invite you, some of you, to be in the Hangout with us. So you're not listening to Sarah, Kelly, and I. You are our guests. We love to do a share fest, and we're hoping that you would like to be in as well. Now, we can't have you all because we only have an hour-long class. So we try to take at least 5 people to join us to talk about your HyperDoc. Now, if you wanna, if you're in progress still, that's fine. If yours is completed and you'd like to join us, we would love that. So if you would click on this link, I have this link all over the place. Click on the link and sign up. This is a Google form that says all the details. We'll need you in to be able to join us next Monday at 3:30 Pacific time. So if you're East Coast or wherever you are in the world, you have to just work around that time change a little bit. Sorry about that. But it is such a valuable week to really talk and hear your thinking as you've gone through this process of creating. So we encourage you to don't be shy, share, put yourself out there. I think you'll find it is an extremely valuable week. And if you don't want to, or you're not ready, you've done this course at a different pace, maybe you feel behind a couple weeks, take your time. I mean, that's why I love this online class. You really can work at your own pace. If the weeks have gone by and you're not done, just keep in touch with your group leader. If you're in my group, I've been getting emails from people and it's really helpful. Hey, Sarah, I didn't tell you this. I have a gentleman who was in my class. He is from Australia. He was in our class a year ago. He finished the class last month.
Oh,
that's the best. So he
see what we mean when we say take your time. That's awesome.
We got time. I followed him on Twitter. He's asked questions, and we finally become friends online.
That's the best.
It's just really cool.
Across the globe.
Yeah, in Australia. Hey, I have someone in my group this year from Sydney too. That is awesome.
We're all teachers, like literally teachers trying to accomplish some of the same things.
We're more similar than we are different. That is for sure. Hey, and you know what, lady? I saw you on my classes, my group docs, making comments. No, I love it. I hope you guys will go into each other's docs from other classrooms.
Well, we're really in this co-teaching, experience, and so I'm always curious to see.
It's okay, Sarah. We don't mind. She's got her little one home. She said, just a minute. She'll probably, Elmo is off. No, we encourage that so much. Take advantage of this time, this deep study you're doing on lesson design, and talk to each other. I love in my group, they're saying, hey, can I share that? Can I borrow that? I would love that, and say, I've got a great web tool. I've got a great idea. On Twitter, that's what I'm doing every day. I just shared that good ideas one with the bees. Someone just shared another bee resource for me. So I love that part too. Did you see that, Sarah, on Twitter this morning? So there more bee sharing happening. The project that will keep going.
I like the bees.
Anything else? Is that?
No, I'm just reiterating, make sure you guys, fill out that form if you want to join us. We love, love, love the ShareFest. So we can't wait to see. So feel free to fill that form out really quickly so we know who's interested. I'm just looking. Wait, Tara says, are we supposed to choose a new topic or stick with the same one we used for the multimedia tech set? So great question, Tara. Do you want to address that, Lise?
Yeah, so you can if you like. It is totally up to you, and it depends on your style. Like I said earlier, I tend not to put a whole multimedia tech set in my HyperDoc. It's just the way I work. I tend to, for the Explore part, I tend to put either one article or I put just a couple links for them to explore so they have some choice. It depends on your timing. You know, if you want your Explore to be really big and take a little longer, yeah, do that. It's up to you. We need you to make lessons that apply to the work that you're doing with students in the classroom. We want this to double count for you. So make something that you can actually use and try out. I think that's going to be the best use of your time. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm just checking one last one. Julie, I feel like mine might be a speed dating HyperDoc for teachers.
idea.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love hearing your thinking. I think what we try so hard to do is share the thinking behind lesson design, and even just talking about the hidden pedagogy. And so hearing your guys go through that same process is amazing. So feel free to ask questions as they're coming up for you. And that's it. I think everyone looks good to go.
Nice job, everyone.
Another great week, you guys. Yeah, thank you so much for everything. And we're all kind of squeezing in our vacations as well. So Kelly was gone last week, and I was gone the last couple days. So we will make sure we pop on and check out your work. But like I said earlier, it's so great to get to someone's assignment and see that others have already been there. Because I'm one person. There's 3 of us, but there's so many of you. So. Thanks for putting your work out there and being part of the community itself. So
I have loved that. Actually, Sarah, in my groups, people have found that they live near each other. They're going to meet up for lunch.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. I love that.
So yeah, we'll continue this after the class is over. You'll see. We'll be chatting away. Nothing better than if we ever come across, we're in your area and we get to meet live. That's the best. All right, you guys. Hey, have a great week. I will see you on the collab doc, and happy HyperDocking. Bye. Take care.